My family forced me to lose weight for my sister's wedding. A year later, I showed up and stole the spotlight. Growing up, I was always the fat kid. Honestly, for as long as I can remember, I was bigger than most of the kids around me, even back in kindergarten. While other kids were just beginning to discover what made them special, my size had already set me apart. And as the years passed, the weight I carried only became more obvious. By the time I hit high school, there was no denying it, I was overweight, and my body became this constant reminder that I didn't quite fit in. College didn't change much either. While some people were out there figuring themselves out, experimenting with style, hobbies, even personality, I still felt boxed into that same identity, the big kid who sometimes hated how he looked. Being larger than most wasn't just tough, it made me a target. I was teased all the time. People mocked me, cracked jokes, said cruel things without a second thought. Some of them didn't even try to get to know me. Others just didn't care. I got bullied more than I like to admit. My classmates went after me relentlessly, and over time, their words started to wear me down. Every insult, every snide remark chipped away at my confidence. They called me names, turned me into the butt of every joke. It was like I was somehow less worthy of kindness or friendship, just because of my body. I'd get excluded from games, parties, pretty much anything fun. Most of the time, I felt like I was stuck behind this invisible wall, just watching everyone else live out the normal highs and lows of growing up while I stayed on the outside. All those years of bullying really changed the way I saw myself. It shaped how I reacted to the world around me. I never quite felt like I belonged, so I found comfort in books. I dove into stories where I didn't have to be me, where nobody stared or laughed. Books didn't judge me. They didn't whisper behind my back. I got labeled the nerd, and honestly, I didn't mind. Compared to everything else, it was a label I could live with. Now, my little sister Bonnie, she was a whole different story. Just a year younger than me, but man, she came into this world shining. She had this effortless charm that made people gravitate toward her. While I was shy and kept to myself, Bonnie lit up every room she walked into. She was the kind of person who could make strangers laugh within minutes. People were drawn to her like she was the sun and they were planets caught in her orbit. Despite our differences, I loved her deeply. Being her big sister meant something to me. I felt protective of her, like it was my job to look out for her. So when she joined me at the same high school, I was genuinely excited. At first, it felt special, like we shared a connection that couldn't be broken. I was proud to be her sister. But as she started to grow into her own identity, I began to notice something shift. She became more aware of the differences between us, how people treated us so differently. I was the quiet, book-smart one, and she was the social butterfly who fit right in with the popular crowd. It didn't take long for her to start noticing the things about me that others found odd or uncool, my awkwardness, my weight, my lack of social skills. And once Bonnie found her people, it felt like she didn't want much to do with me anymore. She started avoiding me at school, barely acknowledging me when we crossed paths. That stung more than I expected. It hurt to see my own sister act like I was someone to be embarrassed by. Still, I tried to respect her space. I told myself maybe it was just part of growing up, that she needed to figure herself out. But deep down, it felt like I was losing both my sister and my closest friend. Then things took a darker turn. Bonnie didn't just pull away, she started to join in with the people who made my life miserable. If we ran into each other in the hallway or at lunch, she and her new friends would go out of their way to mock me. They'd make jokes at my expense, tease me right in front of others, or even try to trip me as I walked by with my lunch. All for laughs. It felt like I was being betrayed, like she wasn't just drifting away, but actively becoming one of the people who'd always made me feel so alone. I had to be on guard all the time, not just because of my classmates, but now because of my own sister. That kind of pain is hard to put into words. It cut deep, especially coming from someone I had always looked up to and loved without question. Whenever Bonnie had friends over, it only got worse. They'd gang up on me at home too. They'd burst into my room without knocking, then laugh at my body like I was some kind of joke. They called me things like geek and fatty, like it was no big deal. I felt like I was just there for their amusement, like some sad zoo animal they could poke fun at. Those moments, when they barged into my space and turned it into a stage for mockery, they made me feel completely alone, even in my own house. I did try to talk to my parents about it. More than once, actually. I just wanted them to see how hard it was to deal with Bonnie's behavior. But every time I brought it up, they brushed it off. They'd laugh and say this was just how siblings acted, that Bonnie was just teasing and I needed to lighten up. They'd remind me I was the older one, so I should be more mature, more patient. So not only did I have to deal with years of bullying from my classmates, and now my own sister, but I also had to face the fact that my parents didn't take it seriously. It made me feel invisible. Like no one in my own family truly understood how much I was hurting. The only time I really felt seen by them was when it came to school. I was always good with academics, it just came naturally. I got top grades, and after a while, it became the one thing I could rely on. My parents loved to brag about it. To them, I was the family's little scholar, and they'd show me off to friends and relatives like my report cards were proof they'd done something right. Bonnie hated that. She was never the academic type, and she didn't care to be. But the way our parents constantly compared us, always holding up my achievements as the standard, really got to her. You could see it in her eyes, that quiet resentment. As if my success meant she was somehow falling short. I could always feel Bonnie's resentment bubbling beneath the surface, and looking back now, I think that's what drove her to do some of the things she did to me. There were times she went out of her way to sabotage my hard work, just to get under my skin. I remember nights when she'd sneak into my room and swipe my homework while I was asleep. And it always seemed to happen right before something big was due. I'd wake up, ready to turn in my assignment, only to realize it had vanished. Panic would set in fast. I'd tear through my binders, my desk, every folder I had, growing more frantic with every second, and there she'd be, standing in the doorway with this smug little smirk, soaking in my stress like it was some kind of entertainment. For her, it was a win, a way to knock me down a peg and remind me that no matter how well I did in school, I was still vulnerable. She knew my grades meant everything to me, that I poured so much of my self-worth into academic success, and she took a twisted pleasure in shaking that part of my world. I didn't even know for sure it was her until years later. One night, after a few drinks, she let it slip. Just laughed and admitted it like it was nothing. Over time, though, things between us mellowed out a bit. We're still not close, not by a long shot, but some of that old bitterness has faded. You could say we've both grown up. Still, that strong sibling bond you hear about? We never really had it, not the way I'd hoped. After college, I moved away to start a new chapter in a different city. I had a great job and a chance to build a life on my own terms. That also meant I didn't see my family much, just the occasional call or holiday text. So when I decided to head home for a summer visit last year, I was genuinely excited. I'd missed everyone and was really looking forward to reconnecting. At first, it went well. We sat down for a family lunch, and the vibe was warm, like we'd picked up where we left off. But that didn't last long. Out of nowhere, Bonnie announced she was engaged. None of us had any clue, so we all assumed she was joking. But then she held out her hand, showing off this gorgeous ring, and we realized she was serious. I smiled, truly happy for her. It was a beautiful moment. I felt proud, like maybe she'd finally found the love she deserved. But just as the excitement started to settle, Bonnie turned to me and asked what I'd been up to. I told her about my job, my life, how fulfilling everything had been lately. I didn't even get to finish before she cut me off with a smirk and said, "I just have to ask, if your life's really that amazing, why are you still fat?" Her words hit me like a slap across the face, dragging old wounds to the surface that I thought I'd long since healed. The room went quiet. You could feel the air shift. Everyone just looked at me, waiting for my response. I gave a weak laugh and shrugged, trying to play it off. But before I could even collect myself, my parents chimed in with more criticism. They pointed out how I was still overweight, still single, and they said they were beginning to worry I might never have kids. I can't even describe how small I felt in that moment. It was like none of my accomplishments mattered. Not the career I'd built, not the independence I was proud of, nothing. All they saw was my body and the fact that I didn't have a family of my own. As the conversation went on, their words cut deeper. I'd worked so hard to grow into a confident, self-assured adult, but suddenly I felt like that insecure teenager again, awkward, ashamed, and desperate for their approval. Then they praised Bonnie, of course. They went on and on about how proud they were that she was getting married before me. In their eyes, she was doing things right, and I was still coming up short. It turned what was supposed to be a happy family reunion into a brutal reminder of how little I truly belonged. Bonnie wasn't done. She kept at it with more jabs, asking, "So, when are you getting married? Do you even have a boyfriend?" She wasn't curious, she wanted to humiliate me in front of everyone. My parents jumped in again, echoing her words like they'd rehearsed them. They said I needed to find someone soon, before it was too late. They pointed out how Bonnie, the younger one, was settling down, while I was still wasting my time with work. I tried to stand up for myself. I told them I was genuinely happy with where I was in life. I loved my job, it paid well, and I was passionate about it. I didn't need a man or a child to feel fulfilled. But it was like they didn't even hear me. My mom gave me this look, sharp, almost pitying, and said, "What's the point of making all that money if you have no one to come home to?" Like she couldn't even imagine that happiness might exist outside of marriage and kids. Sitting there, I felt that old sting of being misunderstood. Like everything that mattered to me was invisible. This was my family, people who were supposed to know and love me, and yet they only saw what I wasn't. I came home hoping to feel seen, to feel connected. Instead, I was met with mockery and judgment. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, Bonnie added one more jab. She said she expected me to have a +1 by her wedding. She didn't want people thinking her sister was some sad, lonely old woman sitting by herself on her big day. That one hurt. I just nodded and told her I'd try. But then my parents jumped in again, saying that even if I couldn't find a partner by then, I should at least lose some weight and look more presentable for her wedding. They said maybe if I slimmed down, I'd have a better shot at finding a man. Bonnie nodded along, completely agreeing. She even told me she wanted me to drop a few pounds, at the very least. I sat there at that table feeling completely stunned, ashamed, too. It was a kind of pain I hadn't felt in years. I kept thinking, how could my own family talk to me like this? Did I really deserve those cruel remarks just because I was overweight? Was being fat supposed to mean I didn't have feelings? I'm a person, just like them. I live my life like anyone else. My size never kept me from doing anything. And it certainly never kept me from being loved. I dated men who were attracted to me exactly the way I was. Yet my parents and Bonnie acted like my weight was this invisible wall that kept love and happiness out of reach, when that simply wasn't true. I wanted so badly to speak up, to tell them how much their words hurt, but I froze. I couldn't get anything out. It was like their voices transported me straight back to high school, all the teasing, all the shame, every time I was made to feel small. It amazed me how easily my family could throw my biggest insecurities in my face and not think twice about how it made me feel. So I sat there, swallowing my pain, waiting for the conversation to shift to anything else. When I got back home after that visit, something inside me flipped. I threw myself into losing weight, but not for me, not at first. I started doing it just to prove a point to them, to show them I could. But as the days went on, it became less about them and more about reclaiming something for myself. I joined a gym, got serious about a clean diet, and hired a personal trainer. That trainer ended up changing my life. She'd once been in my shoes, overweight, overlooked, and she knew exactly how to help someone like me. She built a plan tailored to my needs and goals, but more importantly, she knew how to support me in the moments I wanted to quit. She pushed me, but with kindness, always reminding me to show myself grace when I stumbled. And for the first time, something finally clicked. The weight started coming off steadily. And as it did, I didn't just feel lighter on the outside, I felt it on the inside too. Emotionally, mentally, it was like a fog lifting. I started looking in the mirror and actually liking what I saw. My confidence shot up in ways I never thought possible. Honestly, I used to think that losing weight wouldn't change much. But it did. People see me differently now. Strangers are friendlier. Folks at work and in my friend circle treat me with more respect. And as much as I hate to admit it, it feels good. It feels validating in a way I never expected. Like I'd finally become visible to the world. Along with my new body came a whole new style. I overhauled my wardrobe, bought clothes I never dared to wear before. I even did something bold and got a brand new haircut, something sleek and modern I would have been too self-conscious to try in the past. Maybe it sounds dramatic, but I've never felt so good in my own skin. When I look in the mirror now, I barely recognize the woman staring back. It's like I've finally met the version of myself I was always meant to be. And I'm proud. Not just of the weight loss, but of the confidence I built, the inner strength I've found. Anyway, with Bonnie's wedding just 2 weeks away, my family asked me to fly down next week for lunch so we could go over some final wedding plans. But truthfully, I don't feel like going. I don't want to sit at that table again and have them tear me down, especially now that I've finally started feeling good about myself for the first time in forever. Part of me doesn't even want to go to the wedding anymore, after the way they've treated me. But I know if I skip it, I'll never hear the end of it. They'll call me selfish, say I'm holding a grudge, tell me family is family, and that I should put my hurt feelings aside for Bonnie's big day. So I've been asking myself, am I wrong if I don't go to my sister's wedding? Update 1. Wow. I'm honestly blown away by all the responses. Some of y'all really made me laugh with your suggestions, like showing up and stealing the spotlight now that I've got this new glow up. I can't believe how many of you are actually encouraging me to mess with her a little. But seriously, growing up as the fat kid really did a number on my self-esteem. I spent years struggling with self-worth, constantly feeling like I wasn't good enough, like I didn't measure up. But reading your comments, it's been a game changer. It's helping me see myself differently. I feel more confident now than I ever have. In fact, I'm seriously thinking about showing up to that family lunch and just letting them see me. They haven't seen me in ages, and since I'm not active on social media, they have no clue about my transformation. I'm curious, maybe even excited, to see how they'll react. Update 2. Okay Reddit, grab your popcorn. You are not ready for this. I decided to go to that lunch after all. I figured, hey, they were the ones who pushed me to change in the first place. Surely they'd be proud when they saw the transformation, right? I thought they'd acknowledge how far I'd come, finally appreciate the effort I'd put in. And the second I walked through the door at my parents' house, their jaws hit the floor. I mean it, literally dropped. They stared like they'd just seen a ghost. After a few seconds, they started stumbling over their words, asking if it was really me. I smiled and gave them both a warm hug. Honestly, it felt good seeing that kind of reaction. They showered me with compliments, telling me how incredible I looked, how they couldn't believe the difference. It was all so surreal. But then Bonnie arrived and things shifted. At first, she didn't even notice me. Walked right past like I wasn't even there, just like old times. But when I stood up and said hi, she did a double take. Her eyes went wide, and she let out this weird little laugh, almost like she couldn't believe it. Then, get this, she actually reached over and poked my stomach, like she needed proof that the weight was really gone. My parents laughed at her reaction, saying they hadn't believed it at first either. As we sat down for lunch, the entire conversation revolved around me. Bonnie and my parents fired off question after question, asking how I'd done it, marveling again and again at how different I looked. There was this stunned disbelief in their voices, like it had never occurred to them that I could ever look different. Bonnie, especially, kept saying how she never imagined I'd change so much after losing weight. At one point, she actually said, "When I first asked you to lose weight, I never expected you to turn out this pretty. I didn't even know you had that jawline, or those ankles under all that fat." I held back my anger, kept my expression steady, and gave her a calm smile. "Bonnie," I said, "I've always been pretty. Losing weight didn't make me beautiful, it just made it harder for people like you to ignore it." But she pushed back, insisting there was something else going on. Then, with the kind of nerve only Bonnie could have, she asked, "Did you get some work done? There's no way you look like this without help." And that was it, I could feel my blood heat up. The idea that I had to have surgery to look this way, instead of acknowledging how much effort I put in, it was insulting. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Wow, Bonnie, you really think that little of me? No, I didn't get surgery. I worked hard for this, physically, emotionally. Maybe that's something you should try for yourself." Her smile faltered, her face shifting from fake amusement to quiet annoyance. But I didn't care anymore. For once, I spoke up and it felt incredible to put her in her place. Before she could say anything else, my parents jumped in, trying to smooth things over like they always do. "You shouldn't take it so personally," my mom said. "It's just, we've never seen you look like this before. Honestly, you look even prettier than Bonnie now, and she's the one getting married." That made Bonnie's face twist with fury. I just focused on my lunch and let her stew in it. But then my mom said something that caught me off guard. "You know, I've been thinking, maybe you should go back to your natural hair color. The blonde makes you stand out too much. You'd probably look better with your original shade." Bonnie and my dad jumped on the idea instantly. My dad even added, "Bonnie's always been the blonde daughter. You were the brunette. It just fits better that way." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like they were trying to knock me back down, like now that I'd finally found confidence, they needed to remind me of my place. Thing is, it was my hairstylist who recommended the blonde, it flatters my skin tone and face. It had nothing to do with trying to overshadow Bonnie. But clearly, she was jealous. I get it. I looked good. I felt even better. But why were my parents so uncomfortable with the new version of me? Why couldn't they just let me be happy? They were the ones who wanted me to be more presentable for Bonnie's wedding, but now that I was, they couldn't handle it. Instead of being proud, they were looking for ways to bring me back to who I used to be. So I asked them, straight up, "What's your issue with me being blonde? Does my sister own that color or something?" I looked right at them, frustrated. "No, she doesn't. I can be blonde. I can be brunette. I can be whatever the hell I want to be. Why does it even matter to you?" I couldn't wrap my head around why they were so obsessed with forcing me back into some old version of myself, like the new me didn't belong at their table. Then my mom actually scoffed and accused me of trying to sabotage Bonnie's wedding, sabotage, just by looking too good. Bonnie jumped in too, saying that with the weight I'd lost, I was already going to get attention, so why did I have to steal her hair color too? My dad, as usual, backed them up, saying I was being difficult and that I should try to be more understanding since I was the older sister. And that was it. I was done. "You know what? I'm over this," I said, my voice sharper than I expected. "You're all so caught up in your own issues, you can't even accept that I've changed. The truth is, I've always been amazing. You just never bothered to see it. And now that I've lost weight, it's still not enough. Nothing I ever do will be good enough for you." I let that hang in the air for a moment. They just stared at me, stunned. But I wasn't holding anything in anymore. You know what? Since you love giving me unsolicited advice, maybe it's time I gave you some. I turned to my mom first. Mom, I really hate how the skin around your eyes sags. Your lips droop on one side when you laugh. And those crooked teeth of yours? They're hard to look at. She gasped, but I didn't stop. Then I looked at my dad. And you? You're bald. You really have no room to criticize anyone's hair, color, or otherwise. Maybe try growing some before judging mine. I could see the shock on his face, but I wasn't done yet. Finally, I turned to Bonnie. And you? Don't ever talk down to me again. Between the two of us, I've always been better looking. And now that I've lost the weight, you look even bigger than me. Just look at those chubby arms, Bonnie. Her face went beet red. She looked like she was going to cry. I calmly picked up my glass, finished my drink, and stood up. I gave them a little smirk, turned around, and walked out, leaving them in stunned silence. I had no regrets. After all those years of taking their judgment and insults, it felt damn good to say what needed to be said. They deserved that moment of humiliation. I flew straight back home that night. No way was I sticking around for Bonnie's wedding. Since then, my phone's been blowing up with texts and voicemails. My parents and Bonnie keep calling me rude, saying I was out of line for what I said and how I left. My mom even told me I had to come to the wedding, that it wouldn't look good to Bonnie's in-laws if her sister didn't show up. Update 3, so I skipped Bonnie's wedding. And you know what I did instead? I treated myself to a last-minute solo vacation at a 5-star resort. Best decision I've made in a long, long time. I spent the whole weekend doing whatever made me happy, no drama, no judgment, no pressure. Just peace. I pampered myself with spa treatments, caught up on all my favorite shows, and finally explored some new places in the city I'd been curious about. It was perfect. I've also gone ahead and blocked my family. I'm done being bullied. I'm done being treated like I don't matter unless I fit into their narrow idea of what I should be. Right now, I'm choosing myself, and that means cutting off the toxic people, even if they share my last name. I'm finally free. And I'm not going back.